In this video, I'm going to give you a full tour of the entire SuperBrain OS and let you in on the philosophy that really drove how it got put together. And that means I'm going to need to compare Second Brain by Tiago Forte and SuperBrain, where it's the same, where it's different, and there's a lot of ways where it fundamentally diverges. So I'm going to go through that. And then I'm going to set the stage for how you can build this entire system yourself. Welcome back to the Superhero Institute. My name is Jeff Gibbard. I'm your host, and be sure to like and subscribe, smash it and such. And as a reminder, every page that gets built today in this video, there'll be a link in the description where you can go to Notion and actually duplicate it into your own workspace. But keep in mind, if we build any relations in there, those relations might break when you download those pages individually. So if you'd like, you can also get the entire SuperBrain in the Notion Marketplace, and there's a link in the description for that as well. So today I'm going to take you through the actual SuperBrain. I'm going to give you a tour, and to do that, we're going to start by walking through a completed SuperBrain, and then after that, we're going to build the high-level structure, and then in the next video, I'll take you through, the next pieces, and we'll go from there. So this is the SuperBrain when you first come into it, and you'll have your welcoming and onboarding in there, but this right here, this is your most important part of your SuperBrain. This is the primary structure of SuperBrain. So let me quick define what makes SuperBrain different from Second Brain. So Second Brain is a system that's very, very popular online. It's popularized and designed by a guy named Tiago Forte. And a lot of people really like it. I've looked into it. I've looked into a lot of other systems that are out there. I really love David Allen's GTD methodology. And I've looked into Zettelkasten, and there's all of these systems out there, and basically everybody has their own spin on a couple simple ideas. So what I did is I pulled out the parts that I liked the best, and I discarded the stuff that I didn't like. One of the things that I found challenging about Second Brain was that there's this system in it known as PARA, which is for projects, areas, resources, and archives. And I like each of those in concept. I don't like them as being the primary ordering system of a workspace, because I think there's some issues with hierarchy there that make it challenging to understand where things go. And because of the way my brain works, categorization is a really important way that I think about things. I categorize everything, and the way that I'm able to have such an orderly and organized system is that I think a lot about how do you organize and categorize things. So I discarded the idea of PARA, and I took the parts that I really liked. So I think projects is a very important part of your workspace, but I don't think it's a top level. I think it actually exists inside of the areas in Tiago Forte's Second Brain system. So areas I liked as a concept, which is you have these different areas of your life that are unique to themselves. But I didn't like the way that it was explained. I didn't like that it was on the same level hierarchically as projects. And then resources I liked as have this sort of catch-all place for things that are kind of held in common. And then you have the archives. The thing I didn't like is that you don't have just one archive. You actually have archives that are specific to your projects and to your areas, et cetera. So I kind of threw the whole thing out, and here's what I came up with. When I thought about the system that I needed and that I thought worked best for people with my type of brain, I'm autistic and ADHD, one of the first things I needed was from David Allen's GTD methodology of a central common inbox. I needed one central place where I capture stuff and it goes into my system. And so I needed an inbox. So I started with the idea of an inbox. And then areas was an idea that I liked, but it didn't quite fit for me. I liked spaces. And part of the reason is that when I really thought about everything, I needed a space that had all of the projects, all of the archives, all the collections, all the experiences that were unique to that space. I thought of it almost like rooms of the house, in that, you go into the kitchen and you're going to find your knives and your spatulas and your pans and your pots. But if you go into your bedroom, you're going to find pillows and, dressers and clothes and things like that. So each space kind of has its own flavor to it. And because of that, I thought spaces made sense, because spaces actually stands for specific projects, archives, collections, and experiences. And so that's what a space is. So I liked spaces as the idea of the highest level of organization of all of your stuff. What are the spaces in your life? You've got your home life, your work life, your volunteer, maybe your community, your church, whatever it might be. Each of those is a way that when you're working on any of those things, you're in a completely different headspace than you are with regard to any of the other spaces. So spaces are sort of their own they're the most siloed of anything in the SuperBrain, but everything in the SuperBrain is connected, which I'll show you later. The dashboard is sort of the idea of I want to find where all of the things that are important to me at a glance. I want quick access to the things that are most important. So a dashboard's a very personalized experience. Everybody needs their own kind of homepage, and that's what the dashboard is. And then Commons is what I kind of gave in Notion as the space that kind of holds all of the things that are held in common. It's sort of like resources in the second brain, but I think in a Notion context, it's actually more of like the library. It is the operating system's main folder, really. So I'm going to take you through each of them. So the dashboard, when I come into a dashboard, and this is the way that the SuperBrain OS dashboard is set up, is that I've got some quick capture stuff over here. I've got the new tabbed interface in Notion where I've got my notes, I've got my projects, my tasks, updates, and I'm going to go through every single one of these in later videos, but this is just the overview. My meeting notes, apps, and spaces. And so that's just right off the gate, and then I have all of my AI stuff down here. Again, later video. So the idea behind the dashboard is it can be whatever you want it to be. You can have charts on there, you can have links, you can make it pretty, you can go onto the Notion subreddit, look at all the different pretty homepages people have. You can make your dashboard look like that. Go for it. But the idea is that the dashboard is kind of an empty vessel, and what you put inside of there are views of different databases, and you can put links to things, but you generally don't put things in the dashboard. It's really just a layer to see things. Your inbox is your quick capture. This is where you're going to probably have a shortcut on your phone. You're probably going to have this in your favorites of the sidebar of Notion. You know, up here, I'll have dashboard, inbox, spaces, and comments for myself. And that way I can always get to my inbox where I'm able to quick capture things. And you can put any buttons you have in that you want in here. So if you have other databases that you've added to your SuperBrain, or there's databases that I'll show you in the commons that you're like, ooh, I would like to quickly add to that. The inbox is the place to put those, so you can just quickly always to one place and capture nice and easily. Spaces, as I said, is the dominant way of categorizing things. It's the first biggest tent layer of organization in your system. And in the next video, I'm going to be going through taxonomies where I'm talking about the ways that you organize your SuperBrain. Spaces is probably the first one that you're going to think of. And so I give some examples here that are kind of like very big tent examples: personal, work, hobbies. And I have my sidebar open here. You can see mine. I have my first one is personal. This is for all of my stuff, home and my family and things like that, my car, my house. Super Impactful is my company. It's my main company where I do coaching, consulting, workshops, things like that. Super Productive is my other company that I co-founded with my business partner, Sarah. So I have a completely different space here. Superhero Institute is my online community. Jay Gibbard is for me as a speaker. Shareable.fm is my podcast network, and Action Impact is all things philanthropy, social justice, and activism, things like that. And so if I'm thinking of any of these, I'm in a completely different headspace when I'm thinking about my business Super Impactful than if I'm thinking about my work as a speaker. They're separate things in the way that I think about the type of work that I'm going to be doing. When I think about the type of projects that will be in there, when I think about the collection of resources I might have in there, you know, in speaker, in Jay Gibbard, where I'm doing speaking and writing and things like that, I'm going to have my headshots. I'm going to have, content projects that I'm working on, et cetera. Up in Super Impactful, I'm going to be having things like my company website, my coaching packages, et cetera. So the idea behind spaces is you really want them to be the highest level of organization. And what's really cool about this system that I built into SuperBrain that I haven't really seen anywhere else is I built in a numbering system that I then apply to all of my other systems. So that means my email, my calendar, my task management, my file organization, everything follows this same order of having dashboard, inbox, spaces, and comments. So in my Google Drive, I will have these spaces as my primary folder. So I'll have personal, work, hobbies, etc. And so what's nice about that is that no matter what system I go into, if I close my eyes, I can just think, 03, that's Super Productive. 04, that's going to be Superhero Institute. So you give yourself a simple numbering system. And because of that, you want to limit it to 9 spaces. You probably shouldn't have more than 9 spaces in your life, or you're probably too busy. But the idea is that you want to have a numbered system that you can remember, and you know inside of every one of your different applications that you use, whatever, this is the organizational schema that you use at the very top level. So every project that would exist inside of personal could have the 2-digit 01 as a preceding code, essentially. So you're sort of giving an ID to each space, and it then allows you to have everything very easily findable in search. and also easily recognizable when you look at the title of it. So spaces is really your first level of organization, and each of these, so there's specific projects, archives, collections, and experiences. What that means is that in the personal space, when you go into that page, the way you set up this page can be completely different than the way you would do it inside of work. So the experiences part is, how do you want this to look and feel? How do you want to operate? How much stuff do you want visible? That's the experiences part. The collections are all of the different stuff that you would have associated with it. And that's going to matter a lot when you get into your files and your email and things like that. And then the projects, and I'll show you this when we get into projects in a later video, but you're going to associate your projects with a space. And that way you're able to actually look at all of the projects that are associated with personal, all of the projects that are associated with your work, all the projects that are associated with hobbies, etc. So it makes it nice and easy at the highest level to organize. And then inside of the SuperBrain, you've got the commons. This is where all of the main databases of the SuperBrain live. And in subsequent videos, I'm going to take you through each of these. I'm going to take you through the organization and taxonomies, things like that. I'm going to take you through remember, through reference, through relation, and through rhythm. But these are essentially the groups of how stuff is organized and grouped inside of the commons, inside of the library of the SuperBrain. Is you've got your databases, and for organization, you've got your databases for your memory, you've got your databases for reference type things, you've got your databases for relationships, so people, companies, etc. And you've got your databases for rhythm, or like keeping things on task, so your tasks, your projects, your goals. And then in the SuperBrain, I built in applications, and this is so that the platform itself is expandable. You don't have to clutter up your commons with tons and tons of stuff, but if you wanted to have like a database around travel planning or dining or meal planning, you could put them all inside of apps as sort of their self-contained workspace for doing a certain thing. But these are the databases that are held in common that you then connect to those different apps to give them context and to be able to store things centrally. You connect everything to your notes database, and through those relationships, you're able to see what those notes are related to. So the idea behind the SuperBrain was really to create a simple schema at the very top where the dashboard allows you to see everything that's important to you. The inbox is a quick capture. Your spaces is your biggest level of order, and the commons is all of the databases held in common across your spaces and across any of your different applications. So that's the starting point of how this works. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to organize everything using the stuff inside of the commons. I'm going to show you the 3 most important taxonomies inside of the SuperBrain that will allow you to organize everything in your life and never lose anything again. So that's what I'm going to do in the next video. For now, thank you for showing up for this one. I hope it was valuable to you. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you want to know when the next video is coming out, please just hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.